Howdy, folks. Welcome to the podcast Iron. My name is Laura Mullen Vermilia, and on this podcast, I interview members of the cast iron art community in order to inspire, educate, and spread ideas about iron casting and cast iron art. Our guest today has been named the 2012 Olympic gold medal sculptor and the 2013 International Sports Artist of the Year, Martin Lison. Marty, it was great to get a chance to catch up. I really enjoyed hearing the artistic journey that your life has been. Thank you so much for giving me your time and letting me interview you. Even though we've been friends for years, during our chat, I learned a lot of new and interesting things about your career and how you started casting iron. The podcast Iron Show is sponsored in part by supporters on Patreon. This episode is brought to you by Sloss Metal Arts, a national center for iron casting and metal art. For more information about the Sloss Metal Arts program, visit their website, which is slossmetalarts.com. Now, for all of you listening or watching, thanks so much for tuning in, and please enjoy. Martin Lison, welcome to the podcast Iron. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And my first question to you, my friend, is, well, who the hell are you anyways?
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. It's too much fun. We've been chatting already too long. That's great.
I know we started with big smiles on our faces and they'll know we've been talking already for a half an hour, but that was the pre-show.
The pre-show. Yeah. They put it on. Who cares? I'm Marty Lison. I am the cultural arts coordinator for the city of O'Fallon at this time. I am a sculptor, photographer, painter, whatever suits my fancy. But I guess what I'm doing mostly right now is I'm my daughter's coach in every sport I could possibly help her with, and trying to make her dreams come true. So I just keep driving forward.
Yeah, that's the most important job.
And it's the greatest job I've ever had.
And I was also going to say, it's O'Fallon, Missouri, right?
Yeah, O'Fallon, Missouri.
Okay, just in case, because I know there's a O'Fallon, Illinois, but also some people aren't from around these parts. So that's another thing that we should tell the listeners. So Marty and I live in the St. Louis region. So I'm interested to see how, if we talk any inside baseball about the St. Louis area as the show goes on. I'm sure we will.
We could talk about St. Louis in a lot of ways. I mean,
yeah. And we've got some employment history crossover too. So maybe we'll get to that eventually. But
I figured you'd want to keep that for later.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not we're not going to start the show off with that. We got to make them wait. So let's start off with your formidable years. Any early introductions to artwork or manual tool using, or like manual dexterity strengths?
All of the above. My mom was a painter. My dad's carpenter, woodworker. So I've been around tools and making things since I can remember. So he'd be out in the garage building an engine, working on wood projects with dad, to quilting, to crocheting. That's all a part of everything we were taught at the same time. We did my mom was pretty active in the community making art. She was with the Girl Scouts, and then one of the biggest things that she did a sculpture for a park in the city. It took the entire family. I'm the youngest of 6. And she has 4 sisters and a brother. So big family just on that side. But we made a 29-foot long dragon out of paper mache. And in front of it stood a 9-foot paper mache witch that had it on the leash, and it was trying to pull the dragon towards the cauldron. It was just a fun little Halloween thing that the family did. But we worked all like from May all the way through the summer, just sweating bullets trying to do paper mache.
How old were you when you made that?
That was probably 2004 was when I was helping with that one.
Wow.
So yeah, like I said, art has been involved my entire life. My sister, she would teach me mark making because she's also an artist. She was a painter and now she's a graphic artist. But I would draw still lifes, set up draw still lifes, and then she would come in and work with me on how to properly make an ellipse. So yeah, I've been drawing since I can remember. Fun stuff. That's the formidable years as far as being little.
Did that transfer into like art school, like shop class or like art classes in school?
Yeah, our art classes in school. So my high school, we had a great art instructor, Sue Howard. She was fantastic. She really let us experiment, but she was able to guide us in a good way for those that wanted to stay. So I took an independent art class with her, and then her art history classes. By the time I got to college, my first year of college, I was already a step ahead. At least how I thought about it. Like the art history class, I already did that art history class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do all like 2D drawing in that class, or was there a clay or anything?
Well, that's a funny story.
Yeah. I was like, what am I gonna pull down that's gonna trigger a story?
Sue was the 2D person, and then we had Mr. was the 3D pottery guy, and he was the pottery guy.
Oh.
And it was very well known. And so we get a little chance to mess around with clay, but he was at that time working at the middle school also.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was maybe 90 is when he got busted selling crack to some undercover cops, and he was no longer. So they shut down our ceramic program completely.
Yeah.
So we didn't get really 3D there. So all my 3D experiences, making stuff at the house with my mom. My mom always liked to say, you can make anything with a refrigerator box.
And you can.
And we pretty much had a refrigerator box that we cut apart all the time when we were kids, and we designed stuff off of that. And yeah.
So then when you got to college, you're already advanced pretty much. Like it sounds like art history already a step ahead. And then
my first my plan, everybody has a plan and then it goes haywire, right?
Oh yeah.
But,
yeah.
But the plan was to go to college, get a teaching certificate, go teach high school art and coach wrestling. That's what I wanted to do. So my first year I went to community college and I wrestled. And I took some gen ed classes, and art history was a part of that. And that's went through. But I didn't take art classes the first year I went to school. I was mainly focusing on trying to get those gen eds together and transfer out.
Yeah, smart. It's smart.
Love everything about it. That 1 year at that community college was Merrimack Community College, because they had the wrestling program. That's in St. Louis, Missouri, also. Yeah, I'm a very Missouri-based guy. I didn't venture away very often.
That's okay. I like it enough that I'm staying, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, so that year Merrimack, and then after that I went to Mizzou, and I really loved being down at Mizzou. I was processing through graphic design and into painting, and if I stayed there, I probably would be a painter, because I think his name was Bill Hawk, was the painting instructor. Just started there. Would have been my second year there, and I would have been studying under him. But I didn't stay there because my dad lost his job, so I had to move back to St. Louis. I moved back to St. Louis, and I went to Florissant Valley Community College. Harvard on the highway is what they call it.
Yeah.
But it was the first 2-year community college in the country to be accredited by NASAT. So it highly high acclaims from that little 2-year school. From there, I did general studio arts, graphic design, concentrated in illustration and photography. So when I left there, I only had 1 degree, but I had enough to have 3 associates.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Lindenwood University in St. Charles, and I had a scholarship offer to go to San Francisco Art Institute for painting, and my dad said, "If you stay here, I'll pay for your college." So, me being the screw up I was, I waited till the last minute, walked into Lindenwood and said, "Here's my portfolio," and they said, "Why didn't you come earlier?"
Oh,
I said, "We could have given you money, but it's no big deal."
yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I started messing more in 3D, because the Grant Hardgate was the ceramics instructor there, and a lot of hand building stuff. We were building big, huge, giant things and building fires around them and seeing if they would last. He was about experimenting things. Let's see what we could do, to see how far we could go before we break it.
Was the fire around this huge ceramic things to fire the ceramics?
Basically,
Yeah. Okay.
that's what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
And it was I saw some thing on Discovery about some tribes that would do this. And they big giant bonfires. We weren't making big giant bonfires, but they were big enough for our kiln yard that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I fired all the kilns with him, all the overnight stuff, all the salt kilns that we fired.
Mm-hmm.
That was all pretty much just me and him sitting around drinking beers together, and we had fun.
Yeah.
Learned a lot about ceramics at that point in time, and still no metal or casting.
Huh.
Nothing
Okay.
involved. So I finished my bachelor's degree from there, 97. And I was working at a photo company here in St. Louis. I was the custom black and white darkroom guy. So I spent, hours and hours in the dark. And then when you come out, you're like, I had to wear sunglasses at night sometimes because my eyes were so sensitive. But I was actually selling cameras when I got introduced. The guy came in and was asking about a digital camera. And I told him, there's no way we could, they don't make that yet. That's my daughter behind us. If anybody wants to say hi.
It was just her birthday, right? Last
It
week
was.
or 2 weeks
She
ago?
just turned 13.
Wow.
Yeah. Super, super excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about her a little bit later.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Oh, the dark room.
Well, so you said that somebody was trying to get a digital camera and you said it didn't exist yet.
Yeah, that's where the story was going. It was right when they started producing digital cameras.
Okay.
And he came in looking for a specific digital camera to do something. I was like, they don't make that. It's just not possible. So he made an agreement with me. I said, this is the camera that I think is the closest that is made right now that's possible. But I said, hey, let's go over to this other company, which Schiller's, here in St. Louis. It's the best camera store in the world.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
I love that place. So I made an agreement with this guy. I was like, why don't we go over there and you talk to some of their experts and see what they say?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, you're not going to get that until they start making silicone wafers on the moon. But he wanted was a scanner, but there's a long story about what they were doing. They were printing chiclets out of a basement of a place that I ended. He eventually offered me a job.
Oh, okay.
I had just finished the bachelor's degree, and I was focusing on hand build ceramic stuff and found object constructions, installation things. And he said, he just happened to say, he worked at a foundry / sculpture center and asked me if I wanted to come by and take a look at it because he was losing his head his director of the sculpture center. So I said, sure, I'd love to come by. So I went by there, didn't found out he was the owner
Oh,
of the entire place. Um, the place, it's a pretty interesting place. I stayed there for 12 years. But so yeah, that this is where the introduction of casting started for me. I never touched it before. Walked in, I knew how to make molds. I knew how to pour waxes through Lindenwood University. It's, should probably backed up. I forgot about this, but my instructor there, she was a sculptor.
okay.
Like she made portraits. She did the most amazing lifelike figurative works, and her husband owned a foundry here in O'Fallon, Missouri.
Okay.
So we did one bronze with her. So she gave us, here's your weight of wax, make it whatever you want. And then she sent it to the foundry, and then we got a tour of the foundry.
Okay.
So we didn't actually pour anything. We didn't gate anything up or any of that stuff. So that's probably why I skipped over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's such a sounds like such a fleeting interaction, but a good, because then when you went to this new place, you were already kind of familiar with the process.
Right. And that's what made everything really possible for me to step in there and start working. And they literally had nobody working there at the time. The guy that was there, his name was Claude Meta. He became a pretty important factor of my education at this point. But he had moved to Eureka Forge with Todd Kennecke. And Todd is actually an old ironhead from way back when down in Sloss, when Page ran Sloss.
Mm-hmm.
So he started telling me stories about Sloss. So this is where I told you there'd be some weird confusion of how the old iron, these people that were talking to me, teaching me that I had no clue were connected with all this old school Sloss history. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, Claude, I first day I went in there, here's a guy standing there, a little short, like 5'2", crazy Albert Einstein, black hair. He's got the sunlight shining on him. He's looking in this mold and he's slushing a mold, some wax, and he's dodging the wax as it's coming out. He's jumping around like a little cricket. It was hilarious watching him. So I finally went in there and he explained to me what he was doing, what the process was, how he wanted things done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it went. He had a very specific way that he wanted things done, but he also wasn't there anymore. So he was just coming in on Saturdays for like 4 hours to train me.
Oh.
And I was supposed to take over the whole kit and caboodle.
Wow.
I don't know what I'm doing, but there's a couple other ladies that came in every once in a while. They taught me how to chase the wax.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew how to weld. I was welding since I was a itty bitty little kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't bother me. And then I found out what real welding was.
Yeah.
Like Remy talks about, you think you know how to weld until you go and take some classes. Then you're like, oh my goodness.
I know nothing.
Right. What was I thinking?
I think it's like, that's a rite of passage. That realization that even though you've been welding for years, you don't actually know how to weld like with like the structural integrity that we would want. I think that's a rite of passage realization. Anyway.
And I would still say, I don't know how to weld. I taught my neighbor how to weld. He went in and took it even further. He was doing industrial welding.
Oh, wow.
Whatnot. And I just look at him and go, you weld better than me, man.
Yeah. It's better. I feel like also that's another thing about welding is I've found it's always better for me to be more humble about welding. And if I happen to have something that someone compliments the welds, I'll be like, oh yeah, it was it was all, I don't know, like it was that day I was really feeling it, or the machine was set correctly that time or something. But it's always just better because people sometimes get really touchy about welding or like righteous about welding. It's like, look, I just learned in art school, just doing my thing. Like, don't mind me. So, yeah.
I was always told, or I always heard this from the industrial people that I knew, like my uncle, he was a structural engineer and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you're not a welder, you're a grinder."
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we have to grind all the welds out anyways because we have to retexture these bronzes. So
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't matter how ugly the weld looks.
Yeah.
Grinding it away anyway.
That's the spirit. Yeah.
So yeah, I spent 12 years there. I think what kept me there was I started learning how to do patinas on bronze. So this was mostly bronze. The sculpture center, we focused on bronze and stainless steel at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we did just tons of bronzes. And we were working with one specific foundry that was over in Kansas, Ad Astra Art Casting in Lawrence. We would gate everything up and then we'd ship it to them in just boxes, ship it UPS. And
just the wax.
Yeah, just the wax. We just ship it to them.
Wow.
And yeah, it's crazy but like cost efficient wise, it worked out better for us to do it that way rather than, keeping the wax in the mold and send it to them or just send the molds to them, let them pour it. This way we were able to control our time on the waxes. We were just an industrial bronze foundry that we were just trying to get the artwork made as quickly as we could at the least cost and get the best or the most return out of it as possible. So I when it got to the end of my time at that place, they made me the vice president of the company, and I was told my only job was to make sure that he doesn't lose money. So that was my job description at that point in time. And I was doing framing for him. I was doing all the shipping for him. It was crazy. But I worked with so many foundries around the country. I learned from all these people. We had several foundries in St. Louis at the time that did the Trova works.
Yeah.
Trova's biggest, I wouldn't say competition. It was Bill Severson and Sandy Schultz. Those are the people I was dealing with and talking to, and they were teaching me how gating it this way to pull this would make more sense, doing this and that. So it was a get thrown in a fire and say, hey, make this sculpture that you just bid.
Yeah.
Here's a $200,000 sculpture, and here I am, one little guy with maybe asking a friend to come in on a Saturday to hold something so I could weld it and pull it together, which I was getting Claude to come in and help show me how to form the bronze, because once that bronze is all warped, and we were doing 18-foot tall bronze sculptures, probably why my back's all messed up.
Yeah. Sounds like
it
sounds like that was like a third education on top of what you already came into it with.
Yeah, that time period before my master's degree, I was getting this education from all these foundries.
Yeah.
This is how we want it. This is how we want it.
How they wanted it sent to them, like how they.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And how we were gating it. We were doing all the wax chasing, just sending it to them, and they'd send us back the raw metal, and then I would assemble everything, process it, and then we do all the installs ourselves.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work. And then I ended up getting married. She ended up working with me. She ended up leaving me. Let her go. Then I got remarried.
Yeah.
So, but
which has worked out much better.
Yes. Definitely happier now than I was previously. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that time in between bachelor's degree and master's degree, not just was I getting that education, but I was, we have a sculptor, two really fine sculptors of figurative art in St. Louis. That's Don Wiegand and Harry Weber. Completely opposite styles of figurative. And I was making their work for them. So they would do their waxes, or they would make the originals. We'd make the molds, make the waxes, and then go forth. And then I had a year, 2 years when Harry was building his house that he actually worked every day in the studio. So I got to see his process and how his hands were making them work. So that really went into how I was sculpting in oil-based clay and then mold processing. In that time period between bachelor's and master's degree, I was getting one of the most amazing educations I could from so many different, high-end professionals
Yeah.
that were in foundry to professional artists that were making a living solely by producing artwork.
Yeah.
So that it was just incredible, the technical knowledge that I was getting at that point in time. And then before I made a deal with Lindenwood University
Yeah.
to get my wife at the time a full ride for a master's degree. So I did a sculpture of the president of the university that was twice life size. Everything was agreed to. The mold, we cast it, we installed it, and that's when my wife left me and didn't take the scholarship.
Oh, well.
So they just asked if I wanted to take the scholarship. I just bought a house. I got all this stuff. How am I supposed to be able to go to school and
work full time,
pay for everything? So, but I figured it out, made it work. Went and got my master's degree, and most of that was about drawing there, because they didn't have any foundry abilities. They didn't have any casting abilities there. The sculpture class I was taking were really independent, and I was focusing on portraiture because that's what I was doing with Harry, and that was my focus. And they actually asked me to stop doing that stuff and asked me to focus on more conceptual work. So I started using a lot of saran wrap and strings and making everybody that walked into the studio have to go in different directions or be forced together. I just tried to make everybody in this big giant open studio as uncomfortable as possible. Is that really what it was? Put walls up that were saran wrap that weren't supposed to be there. I cut the drawing studio in half with saran wrap. And I don't know if it was just to tick them all off or if it was fun, because they used them all for drawing objects. So I was making big giant still lifes at that time. And then I ended up with my master's degree and kept working at that foundry.
Yeah.
Until 2012. That's kind of an important year in my life. It might have something to do with the shirt.
Yeah, I feel like that's when I met you too. Yeah, so let me stand up so you can see it. I'm wearing my very own gold medal sculptor, Olympic gold medal sculptor. Oh, I don't know if they can hear me. Olympic gold medal sculptor, Lison Studio. This was a gift to me on a cold, wet, rainy day at Sloss National Historic Landmark. When we were on the steering committee for the Sloss Metal Arts.
Was that 17? Or 19?
It was 19. Yeah.
19.
Yeah. For the NCCC IAP. Yeah. So
I always have to pitch it.
I pulled it out specifically for today. And the funny thing is oh my gosh, we're going to break up the story right now. I'm going to tell you something. Put my phone over here so it doesn't interrupt me again. So there's a stain on this side of this shirt right here.
That's not from me.
It is. It was on the shirt, and it was on the shirt when you gave it to me. And
it's probably spray foam.
No, you know what it is? I know what it is because I'm very familiar with it. I think that it's liquid nails, like the old type of liquid nails that we used to use to zip up the sand molds, like for a low budget. Is that what it is?
It could be.
Because I mean,
that's what I was using.
Yeah.
When I was teaching.
Yeah. At that time, because it was cheap. It was before liquid nails changed their formula. So it's a different formula now, but that's what we used at the University of Georgia the whole time I was there, I never used core paste until maybe I went to the metal museum and they
Right.
had the like red core paste. And I was like, what even is this? Are you sure this is are you sure this is even going to work? We use liquid
I
nails.
didn't know what it was either.
And so the amount of stuff that I got liquid nails on and then it just stayed on, I'm so familiar with that when when you gave me this shirt, I was like, oh, that's just liquid nails. That's probably 5 years old.
It's
Like
either
it's
that
never coming off.
or it's spray foam.
Or spray foam.
Because when we would do the armatures for Harry,
Yeah.
we would cut the 1/2-inch thick sheets of insulation foam,
Yeah.
the hard dense stuff,
Yeah.
and we would start forming his figures with that, and then we would glue it all together with the spray foam, and we'd spray foam all around that, and then we would carve that
back
to be his general gesture of the figures that we do. So almost every shirt I own has spray foam on it.
Spray foam. All right. Well, that may have been the mystery, folks. The mystery has been debunked. Now I know what I thought I knew what it was, but I've watched this a million times and it's still on there. But it makes it that much better.
This is one of my newer ones.
Yeah.
I just had printed, so this doesn't have it. But we're probably trying to figure out how the hell is this guy on this interview right now? Why is he? Because we're already into 2012.
Yeah.
But we haven't even talked about me casting any iron or experience with iron. I think my first introduction to cast iron was with Allison, Alette Kirby, and Noah. John Cross was a painter who was working for Allison. I was really good friends with John. And he said, Marty, I think I got something you need to see. And I met him over at St. Charles Community College. Just the middle of a day thing. He said, just come by, take a look at it. Next thing you know, I had leathers on and I was, working the top of a furnace and then running around the front. And I think that was probably about 2004. If I'm guessing. I mean, Allison would be able to tell you better than I would when she arrived there and started doing all the casting and when John started working for her. But that would be my connection into the iron world directly.
Okay.
Other than all those old timers that were teaching me stories and talking about stuff. But I got to meet like Bill Cole, who had gone to Sloss in the early days. He lived in Aguanga, California, but he was here twice a year. And he would come here twice a year because he would collect the mulberry here.
Oh. And
he would make his paper out of mulberry. And then he actually taught paper making at the some university in Japan. So he just a crazy, awesome dude. He had the longest throat beard I've ever seen. And he had it braided.
Of course.
He was clean shaven everywhere except this throat beard. Crazy guy, but it's awesome.
Do you remember any stories that they told you that maybe stuck out before you even stuck out in your mind before you actually even saw iron casting for the first time?
Yes, but I wouldn't be able to discuss them.
Okay.
There's some stories that I were told that are like, you really don't ever want to tell the story again. But just things that I was told.
We'll keep it at
fun
that.
Times. Let's just say fun extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
We all have them.
Yeah.
But we'll just go with that for now. So I cast a few years with Noah and Allison and everything. Became a part of their regular assistant, help them. We poured on the side of a hill for Allison's 29th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun pour, crazy hot. And then I think my first Sloss was in 2007, then 2009. That was the crazy one for me because that was the year my wife was pregnant, and I got a phone call every day making sure I was safe and alive.
While you're at the conference?
Yeah. Because I was with John Cross.
Yeah.
And we were sponsored by Schlafly's Brewery when we went down there.
Oh, cool.
So we went down there with 2 giant molds in the back of my truck and maybe 10 cases of Schlafly's beer.
Oh, you were
And
packing.
we pretty much were just handing out beer and drinking the whole. We had fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any function at Sloss there. I was just there. I wasn't taking anything, so I just ended up on the pour floor helping people make molds and gating things and pulling out the big giant door for the burnout furnace and push it back in. So I was really just hanging out, helping them the whole time.
What were the molds that you did bring?
They were Allison's molds.
Okay, cool.
I think they were some of her houses.
Well, we'll get her on. We'll get her on the podcast, and I'll ask her about them personally. And she's coming up in, we've been in talks to try and schedule something with her and also with Noah. So anyway, so you're there, you have a great time. Did you run on the crew on the actual furnace for the production pour?
The production pour, yeah. Yeah, I was off to the side doing whatever Allison told me to do. Let the main crew do it. I help break the iron, throw it on top, let it go. But Noah was real concerned because he ran his furnace the last night or the last day to pick up what the production port didn't get. So he wanted us to stay fresh because he knew it would be an all day event for us pouring. And it was really, I think that was where I met Kelly Ludekin, your professor for Georgia. I met him
Jimbo. You met Jimbo?
Yeah, Jimbo. He helped Noah. I think Matt and Biz were running that Sloss, and I think Matt built this furnace. There's some story about one of Noah's furnaces getting stolen, and this furnace.
Yeah,
I think Matt. I don't know the full story of the Chrominator.
Yeah, we'll get it all straightened out. We'll get it all down for the record eventually. As I move through and interview people, they'll let us know for sure.
Right. So yeah, we poured, had a blast, came back, and John got a job out in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up taking his job at Lindenwood University as the adjunct sculpture professor. And I was hell bent to make sure that they had a casting
program.
So I started making crucible furnaces, and I built my first cupola there for the students, and that was the beginning of their casting program that they had for the 5 years that I was there.
Yeah, so
that's my formidable years.
Yeah. Now we can really start. Yeah. So when you were building your furnace, did you base it off of any specific furnace or?
No, not really. I just, at that time, I traveled enough with John. I had been to friends and family. We'd been around to seeing all these other furnaces around. So I was just taking in things, asking questions to the right people, reading the right books, guessing. I tried making my own refractory the first time. I melted it out. It melted completely out. It just wasn't. So I eventually had to purchase refractory.
Yeah.
I think the first time I did that, it didn't melt. I was blowing chunks out of it because we didn't pack it in hard enough. So as we were heating up the furnace, do the first pour in it sounded like a cannon going off.
Oh,
we were at 6 Mile at that time. It was pretty funny. And now I look back at it, it should be embarrassing, but hey, we all make mistakes, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Danny and I in Danny Roar's episode, we kind of did a little debriefing after so many years of like all that first iron pour that we did at Big Picture Peoria, and you and Megan.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah, you and Megan drove me up. Like, I mean, you were driving up too, but we all drove up together, and that was a shit show. But I feel like we learned yeah, like I
We got
feel
medal.
we did, but I feel like you and I both had this realization when we got there that like, oh crap, we're supposed to be the expert. We're supposed to be the knowledgeable people here.
I think the biggest thing that happened to us there is we didn't have a burn-in furnace. I mean, a burn-in burner.
Yeah. And also the fact that we had to like set the bed and then lay the furnace down and attach the top of the stack
I forgot about that.
And then stand it up with the gantry or
And then
not
we had to try to repack the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gantry wasn't tall enough.
It wasn't tall
for
enough.
That furnace.
And so at the very end, we just went, yeah, and just like shoved it up. And then it was up. But who knows what state the bed was in after being completely laid down and then completely stood up. I kind of felt like the unfortunate fact that we had to do that to get the stack on, because there was no other way to get the stack. Usually you'd set the bed and then put the stack on. But I think that, you know, we were kind of in a tough spot. And so then there was no way we would have gotten that stack on. There was no way. Well,
we were
I mean,
rocking hard place at that point in time.
We did. And then actually at the next pour, because I think something came up and you weren't able to go, but it was just Megan and I were up. So
But I sent you with a burn-in burner.
Yes, you sent,
because I stayed up all night long
getting it ready,
making it.
Yeah. And then we ended up getting it on with the gantry, or the bridge. Yeah, it's like what is that called? It's like a bridge.
Get a gantry.
It's like a rolling gantry.
Yeah.
So we got it up with that gantry, but the straps that we lifted it with were like stuck inside of it and we had to cut them out. But it was like, you know, they were like Black Dog Metal Arts straps. And Danny was like, just cut them. Just cut them. Just cut them. Yeah. He was like,
hey man, I'm repping.
Yeah.
I'm repping my Black Dog. They're Black awesome.
Dog Metal Arts. They're
one of my friends up in Peoria.
They're hoping to pour Hot on the Horizon sometime, maybe in the fall. So
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready
that's what I told them too. And, so when we actually know what the dates are, I'm going to blast it. You know, I'm sure we'll all be blasting it on all social media and stuff like that. But I basically was like, just tell me when and I'll drive up. So I'm excited. Yeah. So that puts you at Lindenwood and you've got a furnace, an iron furnace. So you're teaching students, which is amazing to me as adjunct. Were you still also working at that other sculpture studio?
Oh yeah.
What was the name of that place?
It was Fine Art Sculpture Center. Fine Art Limited is the name of it. It was the largest producer of sports memorabilia in the world. So they made posters of sporting events. It was the main thing that they did. I'll plug Jack Shar. He's a pretty cool guy. Still has every Olympic poster ever made. He owns all of them. He had the United States Olympic rights for artwork from 94 or not 94, 84 until about 2008.
So what does that mean?
That means that he was the only one that was allowed to put the Olympic rings on artwork.
Oh wow.
In the United States, produced in the United States. Yeah, that's what it essentially means. So he knew all the high up Olympic people, which none of that has anything to do with me winning an Olympic gold medal. That's the only reason I found out about the competition.
Okay. So that was the connection to the competition.
Yeah. He told me, they have a competition for Jack has this really weird voice, so you got to make the voice. But he told me about the competition. So there's a United States competition, and I competed in that, won it, and then it went over to Lison, Switzerland. My sculpture did, and it competed against 63 other countries, and for 63 other artists from 63 other countries, and mine was selected as the winner.
Gold medal.
I don't know how you can actually say there's a winner in art, but they qualify that somehow.
I'm sure that there's a rigorous, strict judging qualifications and something that I know nothing about. But so you were the gold medal.
Yeah, 2012 Olympic gold medalist for sports and culture in the category of, or the sports and art in the category of sculpture. So the bronze or the gold medal for the sculpture was the first one given or first one announced, but I was the last person to receive my medal, and that was they did that in a completely different ceremony we were in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
Where they did the big giant award ceremony for art and culture and sports and art. We were part of this. It's a really cool symposium they had going on. There was people from all over the world. They were talking about sports and academics. And because I'm a college athlete, my wife was a college athlete. She coached college athletes. We became like every single one of the talks we'd go to, we would be up on stage talking because they were wanting to know how America did it. It's like, man, this is crazy. Sports is crazy. But yeah, we were able to give a lot of insight. Everywhere we went, people from the conference would stop us and start asking us more and more about how it interacts with youth sports. Because a lot of these countries, the people aren't allowed to play sports.
Oh.
You're a little kid, you want to go out and play, can't have a soccer ball.
Okay.
Unless you are chosen to have a soccer ball.
Okay.
So it's really crazy stuff that I learned over there. So yeah, that was 2012. Came back 2013. I was named the Sports Artist of the Year.
Oh, awesome.
To me, that was really cool because it's, as I told you, I studied illustration.
Yeah.
So I was put into a museum with Bernie Fuchs and Bart Forbes and Goodnight and these idols of mine as an illustrator. So that was really cool. Dr. Razanich was just the most amazing, humbled guy. Just made you want to. I just wanted to hug the guy every time I saw him. He was so awesome. Unfortunately, we lost him a couple years ago. But he started the United States Sports Museum and the United States Sports Academy.
Okay. And where is that?
That's in Daphne, Alabama. And it solely focuses on sports. Pretty cool what they do. It's one of the first online universities. Neat stuff. We can go backwards, we go forwards. So my history's crazy.
Yeah. And so I guess I'm interested to know what about iron casting made you want to bring it to Lindenwood? Because I feel like a lot of places, I've said this before and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying it, but I kind of feel like bronze and aluminum, a lot of places have it. A lot of places it's kind of a given. Of course we pour bronze here. Oh, we're a sculpture program. Of course we pour aluminum. But the iron, what made you think that was a good idea? I shouldn't say it like that. What made you think I, as an adjunct sculpture professor, want to, because that's a thing that I feel like it's a lot of work, much more than bronze and aluminum. I mean, bronze and aluminum are just as, dangerous in their own ways and just as rewarding and all of that. But this, what I'm wondering about all of these people that are going out from their programs or from learning iron and saying, okay, but I want to do all of the work to get the chemistry for the molds, to source the sand, to find the people, put them in the leathers, get them excited, build the furnace. What made you want to bring iron to Lindenwood?
I'm crazy. No.
That's a good answer.
University, I grew up around the place.
Yeah.
We walked through it. It used to be an all-girls school.
Yeah.
They learned to be a proper woman.
Huh.
They had horse stables. You learn how to ride horses, and all that. But when I got there, it had transitioned from being a college to a university.
Hmm.
That was my bachelor's degree. Um, the reason why I wanted to bring iron there specifically is because of people like you, and it's people like everyone I've met across the iron community. It built a family so quickly. Like, I felt so welcome to be a part of this. And from coming from the outside, not really being a part of these universities that had iron casting, not
Yeah.
being a part of that stuff, I had no connection to it other than Allison and Noah.
Yeah.
And that's where it was. So, but I saw how much it brought people together. And the first pour that we did, I had 5 students in a class, and we went over to St. Charles Community College, and we
Yeah.
helped with the pour.
Hmm.
It's those 5 students that wanted it. And I
Yeah.
said, if you want it, we'll do it. So I started finding materials, made a couple phone calls, put something on Facebook. Next thing I know, I had 15 water heaters sitting in my
Oh
backyard.
yeah, for the
Bathtubs
iron.
were being
Yeah.
tossed over my fence. It was crazy because I know, like, I've been in St. Charles since I was born,
Yeah.
and I know all these people. They're like, "You want to do what? We want to see this." So all the materials just started flooding into my backyard. I was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
Um, so with those 5 students, and we got the 3D design students that were in the class. They were almost combined classes. They were back to back. Um, they jumped on board. They said they wanted to be a part of it. I think that class only had like 7 people in it. And we built this furnace. And between the 14 people, Allison, Noah, and John, we did a pour. We did 2,000 pounds the first time we poured at Lindenwood campus. The professors, like my dean and the president, everybody came out to watch this. Like, what is this guy doing? What is it all about? We did it during the day, which makes it look a little safer.
Yes. Yes. That's what I
So
was.
we had it all structured out, so
Yeah.
it was fine. And then the second one we did, and we had all sorts of problems that we had to deal with that first one. I didn't have the right blowers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Fortunately, I had a Kirby,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as in a Noah Kirby.
Yeah. I knew where you were going with that.
I got this. Here you go.
Yeah.
And we hook his blower up to it real fast. So there's a lot of learning about how to run the furnace.
Yeah.
Building it, I didn't have a problem building it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about learning how to run it, to make
Mm-hmm.
it run. And even with all the times of going to all these other pours around,
Yeah.
learn how to figure out that little furnace,
Mm-hmm.
little shit box that it was. We named it. I don't like naming things, but my students named it the Blessed Mother Without Her Makeup.
I remember that. I remember. And
We did make shirts.
Good. I mean, I think that is like part of that's part of this community and like part of it in the bonding and I feel like I even met some of these students. So it was like that February when they did the pour at Lohmeyer. So the beginning, like, I mean, it wasn't very far into 2019, but you had workshops where those students, even though you hadn't been teaching for a couple, like maybe 2 years by that point, they still came out and volunteered for free to help you teach the scratch block workshops.
We had from the years that I taught at Lindenwood, because I didn't teach that long. It was 2009 to 2014.
Yeah.
So that was that short period of time. I went from having those 5 original students in a sculpture class to having 2 sculpture class, and I had a total of 75 sculpture students with and I had grad students in sculpture every single year that I was teaching. So yeah, I grew the program really fast.
Yeah.
And then the day I was called about the gold medal was the day Lindenwood University released me.
Mm.
Really funny.
Mm.
Great things happen when bad things happen, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's something about like when one door shuts, the window opens or something. But
I was thinking shoe drops.
yeah, whatever. All these analogies. So, I was like really blown away by how these people, I mean, they weren't kids by that point. They were like the same age as me, but they just showed up to teach these sand mold workshops, and
They had nothing in it. And that was the cool thing about them is in teaching each other, everybody always has to do some sort of joint project in some way. Well, our joint project was pouring iron.
yeah.
And they all figured out how to work with each other. This group would go break iron, this group would mix the sand, this group would be parting molds, and then they would float around with each other. And it really got to a point where I just kind of stood back and I just had to teach them how to part molds, which is great. And then as 2 or 3 of them would leave, the next group would come in, they'd start really wanting to learn more. I mean, the experience that you had, all everyone else that talks about iron casting got that experience. But if it wasn't for the kids wanting it, it wouldn't have happened because I didn't have a budget. The university was not going to give me a budget as an adjunct to do anything. So I had this one real go-getter kind of girl, Gina. She goes, Marty, I want to pour more than once a year. I go, well, lady, if you want to do that, you need to figure out how to get the materials.
Yeah.
She calls me the next day and she says, Marty, you're getting 3 tons of sand delivered.
Wow.
And a dump truck showed up and dumped off 3 tons of sand. I was like, how did you do that? And then she called me the next day and said, hey, we're getting X amount of iron delivered. And she made phone calls to people and just said, we're students at a university and want to do something. Would you want to help us? And that's how we had to operate because we weren't going to get a budget. I did eventually get a budget. They do a thing at Lindenwood that's called a Sibley Day. Sibley was a member of the university, Miss Sibley, and her husband actually was the caretaker of the property, but she was the educator.
Mm-hmm.
So to celebrate Sibley Day, all the different departments would do something. Well, we would do the iron pour and we'd throw out a bunch of scratch blocks for any student that wanted to do a scratch block could come by and do a scratch block. We'd like 100 scratch blocks, thinking that's more than enough for it. The entire faculty came out and made scratch blocks. So all of our scratch blocks were used by the faculty and not by the students, which was kind of cool because they wanted to see what this was. So
yeah,
and they got to experience sitting there. That was another one we did during the day.
Yeah.
We keep them during the day because we were concerned about mainly the parking lot, just where we were located was kind of funky.
Mm-hmm.
We finally did do a one that led into the night.
Mm-hmm.
This was probably about 10:30 when the cops showed up. Because it was all open. It was just an open parking lot. You could see the road as you drove by.
Okay.
There was no fences, nothing hiding us. And we're right on the main streets of St. Charles. So the cop shows up, asks what's going on. I explained to him. He goes, but that's not a controlled fire. I go, yeah, it's controlled.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you come over? I go, hey, why don't you call the fire department?
Yeah.
Bring them up. They'll get a kick out of this and I'll put them to work. And so fire department showed up and they said, this is absolutely fantastic. And they didn't see, because that time we had it, we're kind of starving the furnace at that time. So it was really just a pointy flame where it wasn't getting sparks flying around. And they said, cool, man, just shut it down before 11. I go, well, we really can't just shut this down. There's no switch for it. And they kind of laughed at me and said, get it done as fast as you can. I said, we'll be out of here before midnight.
Okay. Yeah.
And the neighbors were cool. They came over and watched and asked all sorts of questions. Mm-hmm. So because we were right there up against a fence,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
a bunch of, regular citizens of St. Charles that were just hanging out in their backyards. So what are these crazy college artists doing?
Did you plan to go into the evening, or was it like a series of things that led it to start later and then?
It's probably more of a series of events.
Yeah, that I feel like that's how a lot of pours turn into evening pours.
I think that was when I was running with my blowers. I had to rewire a blower. I might have. There was one time, I don't remember if it was that time or another one, I had to change a motor out on my blower. Fortunately, I have tons of electric motors lying around. That's the benefit of having an uncle that worked for Monsanto, and he just liked to not let things go to waste.
Yeah.
And he was the plant maintenance guy.
Okay.
I learned a ton of stuff from him as far as tactile, how to put the tool stuff. He had 9 patents to his name.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. Awesome. But those things happen too. But
So when I met you, it was 2012. It would have been fall of 2012. And I had just moved here from Athens, Georgia I think I moved here in August or something, but coming here immediately, was in touch with Allison and Noah through Jimbo and Leanne. They were like, it was just a coincidence that I happened to be moving here, and a coincidence that they already lived here, and they were really tight with Jimbo and Leanne. So Jimbo and Leanne were like, I was moving here. I didn't know anybody in this area at all, and so far away from my whole family and support system. And so Jimbo and Leanne were like, if you need anything, these people can help you. If you, like if I don't know, if I was in an accident or, they were worried about me. I think everybody was worried about me at that time. But I moved here, and immediately there was going to be iron pour at 6 Mile, because that was the kind of years that they were doing the yearly 6 Mile sculpture kind of invitational thing at Granite City at the their old shop before they had to move. And
that was every even years.
What?
There were even years that they were doing that.
Really? Because I feel like it was 2012 and 2013 and 20, but I don't really remember. I thought it was every year.
I thought they tried to alternate that around Western.
Oh, okay.
I could go get the shirts. I got all the shirts of the.
Well, because it was like I met them in 20. So that was like the funny thing was I was going out to Hayes, Kansas for the Western right after I graduated. So I was still living in Athens, Georgia, went out, hitched a ride with Durant out to the Western. And then when I was there, I had already heard their names from Jimbo and Leanne, and they were at the Western. And so I introduced myself. I'm about to move to St. Louis. And so I at least had met them once before I actually moved to this area. And so I had met them in 2012, the summer of 2012 at the Western. And then the fall of 2012, they had 6 Mile that I went to, and I helped them with some sand mold running, because I think I was only working part-time or something, or my residency was only part-time or something. So I helped with like running a lot of the sand for the conference. And there was this like one guy who had these big molds of flowers, just like big rubber molds, and like but he wasn't there because he was working during the day, and then he would come in at night when I wasn't there and work on these flowers. And then
is that the year that we broke the molds open with the flowers and they were glowing? Okay.
Yeah, that's the story I'm getting to. So I was like, who even is this guy? I mean, obviously he knows his stuff, because these are big latex molds of huge flowers. Like, I mean, what is the span on that? It's like 5 foot.
Oh, they're not. They're about 3.5 foot in diameter when they pour out. I like sculpting flowers in clay. I'm a big fat guy. at flowers. It's probably because my mom always said, "Can't you make anything pretty?"
Ah,
So I started making. It actually, the first flower I sculpted. This is kind of a cool little story that
yeah.
you can. It doesn't make me any difference. But I was studying. I was drawing again, and I started dating my wife now, which name's Megan, which some of you might know. Some of you might. I got a great story about her first iron pour.
Oh,
So like, but I was making all these drawings, so I had to go and I want to do a still life with flowers. And her favorite flower was a tiger lily. I found all these lilies and I purchased all these lilies and I was drawing them. And then I actually ended up sculpting one that was closed. I called it Me Again. Megan. Like has another name. But then I ended up bringing it out to her and giving all the flowers to her after I was finished drawing and sculpting and studying them. But
yeah.
yeah, that was the first flower that I made. And then from there, I just kept sculpting flowers.
But anyway, so we're at 6 Mile and um yeah, I mean, we're in downtown Granite City in between two buildings, like in the city block.
It was like
Almost as
just removed between these two buildings.
yeah, I don't know if there had been never a building in that like square, like, well, I shouldn't call it a square. It's basically like a rectangle of real estate in between two other like city buildings. Like when you think of like the like I'm trying to figure out how I can lay it out for the listeners and the viewers. It's like if you go to a downtown area of like a little town and you just that main street and it's like all of the buildings that are like built right on top of each other and usually there's apartments above, like it's like that type of a main street. I don't know if it was on Main Street, don't quote me on that or whatever, but yeah, it was like as if a building had just been removed from that whole line of buildings, just in the middle, like buildings on one side, buildings on the other, just this like empty square. And that's where the pour was with your furnace. I feel like
It was. I always loved the group that I had with the students. And I mean, they would come back in a heartbeat in a second. I still get phone calls from them often just to ask me about stuff or just how you doing, Marty? But and that's probably about 20 or 30 of them I talk to regularly still from that. It was just a great experience for all of us. So much fun. But that specifically, I won it that night. Um, uh, the girls ran the furnace.
yeah, I remember Stacy Rather.
All my ladies, that was their thing, and Stacy was really just there to make sure they kept it going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she was also there to hold the hose on the hot spot on the side of the
come
furnace.
on.
Semantics, I know.
There was a girl from Chicago that came down. I can't remember her name, but she was running the furnace down and then looked back up, and that's not how that furnace ran.
Yeah.
I could tap it every 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
It was probably 11, maybe 12-inch
Mm-hmm.
at the bottom, and then I had it tapered up to like 9-inch at the top. So there's a lot of pressure pushed down on it. But she'd actually burn that thing all the way down to the wind belt, and then she would refill it. And I'm like, what's going on? So I had to yell at my crew for a minute, and I never yelled at anybody because they're busting their butts.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's my crew, but we were all having so much fun that night. I cut those little 4x4s, or they might have been 6x6s, and I drilled into them.
Yes.
So a little handheld ladle that we were pouring into those, and those were supposed to light our path around. So see what we were doing, and loved those big giant glowing orbs going on in the front that was giving us just enough light to see because we didn't have there was a street at the very back of that lot, but we didn't have any other light.
No.
It was my flower thing, and Andrew had a big giant log that he carved up, and yeah, we blew that thing up in that little space.
I remember that. And I feel like I may have even poured one of them because somebody had to step out from on the ladle. And then,
Yeah. I don't remember that. She did burn. It got in between her chap straps, and the next day I could stick my finger that far in. It was bad.
What was that? One of your students?
No, it was a friend of Andrew's.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember her name. If I was on Facebook, I could probably find you.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And David Lobdell had Arch, one of his like KOL. Yeah.
And we were in the playoffs. The St. Louis Cardinals were in the playoffs because Megan was running back and forth to get to her car so she could score and whatnot.
Yeah. I don't even remember that because I remember pouring into the logs with Andrew. I remember the little individual piece of wood to kind of light our way. And then so your flowers.
I would shove that 5/8 stainless steel rod into the flowers.
Well, so first we would pour them.
Yeah, we'd pour them.
We pour them like obviously in iron, duh. But if you're listening, I just want to be super clear.
That makes sense of all the bronze that I have done.
Well, so we pour them in iron, and then did you like time it, or did you know when to break open the molds?
I had no clue. I'd never done anything like this before.
Did we put the rods in the pour spout while it was still molten?
Yes.
Okay, so it was
the rods went in, and then pretty much we went to the next one, or we'd take, because those flowers would take a lot of metal to fill the cone itself, and then they were real thin. I mean, the leaves were thin, so they're really hard to get.
And the petals,
right? So they'd either go away to pour another mold, because we were still doing it. I mean, there were molds all over the place.
Yeah.
In that area, but what I do is I go and check that, and I go back and I would just grab a hold of the stainless steel rod, move it around. If it didn't move, I would bend it over, and the mold would start breaking around it. And then a couple guys start pulling the sand mold off it. The goal was to get it lifted up in the air.
Yeah.
While it was completely glowing.
Yeah.
And we got it pretty close. We got some that were about halfway out on them that were glowing, but the cones glue pretty good. They're on my Facebook page.
Because I feel like the center, I don't know my flower anatomy, I'm sorry, but that like center bulb was pretty solidly thick. And so that I felt like stayed red and then orange and then like for a while and then the dull red. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember holding them in place and then pouring iron. Did we pour iron?
That's where everything failed, because when we stuck them into the ground.
Yeah.
And they were standing. Yeah. And they were going while they were standing. So it was really cool. And then when we poured the iron in there that would form the pot, it superheated the stainless steel rods, and they started falling. So then we were bending them back up, and we were popping underneath it and whatnot. But I now have a better way of doing those. If I ever pour more flowers, which I think every day I'm asked by somebody in my family to pour more flowers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't smile. Yeah, you want one, I know.
Well, they're really beautiful. I mean, what girl doesn't want flowers?
I made 6 molds.
Yeah.
Like silicone molds.
Uh-huh.
Being out of silicone caulk, all those molds are destroyed. So I have to make a new mold of flowers if I want to make more flowers, which I do. Time. I got to get a kid in college first, I think.
Yeah. There'll be plenty of time. That's what I just keep telling myself. There's plenty of time, because the telling myself the other option makes me more depressed. Like, so I just tell myself, you've got plenty of time. Just do this now and you'll do that later. So yeah.
There's actually not just those were specifically cone flowers. There's daylilies, there's wallflowers. There's all sorts of different flowers that I've sculpted that are all approximately the same size.
Yeah.
And those are the big idea was, or the concept was to be able to fill a field with these cast iron pieces, and then just one tiger lily cast in bronze that would be polished on top of it. So, okay, it's my emotional thing with my wife, I guess. I love her. She's awesome.
She is. Do you want to tell the story of her first iron pour? Because I originally was going to interview her separately, but she's declined from an interview, which I mean, I'm not going to pressure anybody that doesn't want to be interviewed, but I feel like she is like not just a wife. Like she really is also in the community. Like she's been to Sloss. She was on the Mold Master crew for 2019. Like, I mean, she's been around. She's come to iron pours that you weren't even at. So let's,
she loves it. I mean, she went to school originally to be an artist, and then she, if I can get her to tell her story, I will. But she, she was type 1 diabetic, and so she was super concerned about having medical uh, uh, insurance. So she's a X-ray technician. So that's what she does. So she'd come to all the iron pours, and she never really wanted to help. And then Christy Summers,
yeah.
go down to Carbondale and give him a hand. And so she jumped in the Jeep with me, and Tom Thornberry jumped in the Jeep, and we drove to Carbondale and helped Christy pour once. And it was great. We had a blast pouring with the crew down there. I think it was right at that time. I think this might have been Christy's last pour there before she left. But so we were there having a blast, pour and whatnot. And it wasn't necessarily the pour that was the fun part or the funny story. It was when we got back home.
Oh.
So whenever we take a trip out, when we leave St. Charles, first place I always go to is the old Mill Stream Inn.
Yeah.
A couple times. So we walked into the restaurant area, and we walked through to go to the bar. And Megan goes, "Man, is there a breeze somewhere?" And one of our friends, bartender there, Stacy, goes, "Megan, you might want to check your pants." Her pants were split from her belt loop all the way down and around, and we have no idea how long they were split. At the pour, with just a wide open backhand. How do they say it? Assless chaps and assless pants.
Yeah.
I know she's gonna hate me for telling the story. I'm surprised she's slapping me on the back of the head. So she ran home real fast and changed and came back down, and we had a beer together before we went home. But yeah, I'm embarrassing myself telling that story.
It's a good one though. It's a good one because sometimes, when you're so focused, and also I feel like when you're all leathered up, like, I don't work in industrial foundry. I'm not wearing leathers all the time. And so when I am, it's the sensation that my body only experiences. Like what I pour, if I'm lucky, I'll pour like maybe 3 times a year. And so it's like, I think a lot of stuff I would normally notice just goes unnoticed because I'm carrying all this extra weight. I mean, like, so my husband Rob and I always joke about like, okay, so now I'm gonna put on the skin of a dead cow.
It sounds so gross, doesn't it?
It's just that's what it is. But it protects us, and also there's like a nostalgia to it. Like it's just
I got so used to them with welding so much at the studio, and I take I take the leather off, and then I put on the greenies when I would grind. I still to the day, bronze dust gets on me, I instantly start itching, and I think I might be allergic to bronze now, just around it so much. I mean, that was 13 years at that place every day grinding and welding bronze, and then I still do it in my backyard, in my home studio. So yeah, but yeah, Megan loves casting. She's right there, elbow to elbow, and she won't let anybody. You know, if, how did the late great Dan Hunt say it? Uh, we don't like anyone with too much machismo. Yeah, that's about how we say it. I think I usually say dick swingers.
Yeah.
She's more than happy to knock him out of the way and say, "Hey, you need to cool it," or knock it down. It's just who she is. She's awesome. Put her in place. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing this stuff anymore. In 2000, oh geez, it was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were so financially strapped with everything we were doing. Her dad owns a industrial painting company. So it runs buildings and metal work and stuff like that. I was going to give it all up and just go work for dad. And she said, "The hell you are. You're stick with your dreams. You're going to do it." And then the next year, the Olympic thing happened and everything started in the right direction. So, yeah, that's, I'm not a great man, but I got a great woman behind me. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she'll be happy she gets her props sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, she deserves them. She deserves every single one. So everybody, if you see Megan Lison at the next sport you're at, be sure to tell her you want to hear her on the podcast. Let's
And you'll
get her.
know who it is by the crazy blonde curly hair.
Yeah. So I want to eventually, I think that it's time for us to go over to the after show, but I just want to,
We'll talk about how we worked at Lohmeyer together.
what do we still need to? Maybe we should.
You want to do that in the after show?
Yeah. But do you want to talk anything about O'Fallon? Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, in my position at the city of O'Fallon, I'm in charge of all the art. Uh, I'm in charge of theater productions. I'm in charge of the galleries. I'm in charge of the educational programming for both studio and for performing arts. And I also do the outdoor sculpture exhibition, which is every 2 years.
Mhm.
I can't thank the iron community enough for jumping in my first year there and getting sculptures there, and in this next year or this second year, the same thing. The support the iron community has had and submissions and bringing it to the city of O'Fallon's fantastic. And the city appreciates it, trust me. And it's only the third time they've done it, so bi-yearly. But we get fantastic artwork submissions. I just moved Coral's piece today, so she went from one location to another.
Uh-huh.
Dave Lubdell and Kelly Ludekin are both part of the permanent collection now.
Yeah, he was just telling me that the city of O'Fallon purchased his elephant.
It's In the Room is the title of the piece, but it's a big giant elephant made up from old farm equipment parts. So I get a stipend every 2 years to get the sculpture exhibition to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's $2,000 an artist. And I'm really trying to work with the city to get that changed. But they were really talking about it, but because of COVID, all this money comes from the Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Yeah.
Many people visiting O'Fallon, so they weren't getting money into the city from hotel taxes and stuff like that. So we're looking to try to get that changed, make it better, more worth the while. And but they also give me a budget every 2 years to purchase, and they really want to have permanent sculptures in the city, along with 2D art. So yeah, I'm trying to build their collection. First thing I had to do when I got there was write a collections policy.
Mm-hmm.
How the city was able to collect. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing is I can't thank how the iron community, we're family, right? Came together to really make that first exhibition when I got there, and because I didn't even have a month really get this done. And I was like, "What do you mean get it done?" and it was great. So I will do it every year. I will send Facebook messages to every single person I know in the iron community saying, "Hey, if you want to submit, submit. If you don't." I mean, and I have to travel long distance, but we'll do whatever we can to accommodate that. That's for sure. City appreciates it, and I absolutely love it because I get to see people. I get to see, Jeremy came over and brought a piece, picked a piece up. So it was great seeing him. Um, so yeah, that's the city of O'Fallon. It's far from anything I ever wanted to do. And who wants to be an art administrator? That sounds boring, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
it worked out. It's kind of cool, being able to establish certain things, and it's not just that. I'm curating at the same time, so it's a mess of everything all rolled up in one. And they still get to do events like jamming, which is musical concerts they do every Tuesday. So I have to go to those in direct traffic.
So for people that are listening, if they want to maybe apply for the outdoor sculpture,
it's a tricky process. But whether it's the outdoor sculpture exhibition or if you're wanting to exhibit in one of our galleries, best thing to do is just contact me at mlinson@o'fallon.mo.us, or you can look up my website. Just give me a call on my cell phone, and I'll tell you.
And you blast it on social media when it comes around. But when should we be expecting? When should people start making their pieces for? Like when's the next rotation?
2024.
Okay.
I'll start taking. I'll take submissions now. I'll hold them until that February 2024, and then we'll make that. We vote that first week, or the first week of February. The jurors come in, they do their selection of the 10 pieces. So we take 10 pieces. And then I make the phone calls right away, send the emails out, and make arrangements. Because, a lot of professors, I'd like to get it in May, but I'd like to have it before June 1st. Because when it's June 1st, then we end up with the 4th of July celebration. And the city of O'Fallon's 4th of July celebration is the biggest in the area. It's massive. It's crazy, and it takes a whole month to get things squared away. I'm working with Letitia right now to get her piece brought in. So she was wanting to bring it in around the 17th of June, and we couldn't accommodate that. So
yeah,
she's coming in the 21st. She actually did me a favor to come in a day earlier than we planned, so I can go on my vacation.
Oh, nice.
So I appreciate that. Thanks for watching.
I'll send this her way so she can get the message.
So yeah, it's super exciting, that sort of stuff. And then, I don't think I'll ever be able to get them to do a performance pour there, even though we should, because the history of the railroad,
Yeah.
and blacksmithing and all that stuff. So it's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
This is a very conservative city. So it's a little bit of a push for somebody as crazy as I am to be working there. I can't believe they hired me.
But you're doing good work there, and I think everybody's benefiting from it. So it's exciting to see that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about what's hot on the horizon.
Actually, I have a commission that just got signed and waiting for the metal. So I will have to go and pick up some metal here soon, and making some flowers for a lady's front yard.
Nice.
She heard about some stuff that I did from another friend of mine, a painter, and the lady kept calling me. I kind of blew it off for a year, not thinking much of it because I was just so busy with the kid and all that stuff. And I went over to her house, took a look at the space, I stood right there in front of her, made a quick drawing sketch of what I was thinking, and she goes, "That's absolutely fantastic." She goes, "Let's do it." And I said, "Well, I know you got a budget, so let me," because metal prices have gone through the roof.
Right now, yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we could get it made for her in her budget, and we're gonna push her budget. We'll see if I make any money. I doubt I will, but because I just want to make the art, I just want to make it as big and badass as I possibly can. And she wants it to be lit up. So she wants so they're actually they're gonna be like cones that come up,
Uh-huh.
flower heads, and then the leaves will be around that, and then we'll light it from the inside, so there'll just be a purple glow that's coming out of the flower. I started doing these specifically. I did a sculpture for the St. Louis Art Museum, and I tracing paper and varnish, and I wrapped it around some just some rebar that I welded to the ground, and then I just filled it with glow sticks, glue, and that's where this came from. That was St. Louis Art Museum used to do Christmas caroling
Oh,
at one time out in front of the art museum, and they'd have local artists make sculptures, and then they light it up with candles and ice blocks. Just walk to each sculpture, and they would sing Christmas carols together. Weird,
yeah.
but yeah, that's yeah. I don't know what happened to that piece. The art museum probably has it or threw it away, hopefully, because it was such a horrible sculpture.
I'm trying to think if I ever saw it in storage. I mean, there was some stuff in the basement storage that was tucked away in this one corner that we didn't go in there very often.
I never went and picked it up. You can throw it away, that's fine.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember, but there was also a lot of stuff in art storage that I never saw just because of the way everything was stacked and how should I say, archived.
I do. I love that. I love telling the story to people about the guy that hired you at the art museum. What he called.
Yeah. So I was working for Marty as his assistant preparator because he got the job as the full-time preparator at Lohmeyer. We can talk about that in the after show, but I was applying for this full-time position at the St. Louis Art Museum as a preparator, and it would have been my first full-time job with benefits and all that stuff. 40 hours a week. And so Marty was one of my references. Yeah.
When he called me, I said, "Listen, man, I can't tell you enough about how amazing Laura is, because you are. You work your butt off. You're focused. You do everything. You're absolutely incredible." And I said, "I don't want to lose her, but I'll tell you right now, you're a fucking idiot if you don't hire her." Those are my exact words to him. And he went, "I've heard some things about you, and they're pretty much coming to be true." I'm like, "Man, I'm honest, and I just say what I say. Sorry if it offends you." And he goes, "No, this is fantastic. I love it." I was like, "Thanks." I was like, "Who have you been hearing things from?" So apparently my name's floating around St. Louis, and I don't know anything about it. But because I try to hide. I don't exhibitions. I don't promote myself whatsoever. It's all word of mouth from friends that get my art sold. So, and I make a lot of it that ends up in, my family's houses and yards and whatnot. It's fine. I think I make it more just for me.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that we all kind of have our own little neat little corner of our artistic practice where it's like, I am doing this for somebody, but if I didn't want to be making this wedding ring, I wouldn't. If I didn't like you this much, I would not be making this wedding ring for you. But I also am happy to have the excuse to get into my studio to make you a wedding ring. Yeah, it sometimes.
I only photograph friends' weddings.
Yeah.
It's very important. I get the cameras out to photograph that stuff. But yeah, hot on the horizon. That's I guess going on vacation, making the flowers. Getting back into photography. Hopefully, get my back fixed. I keep doing stuff to get that squared away. But working at that studio, moving bronzes. I just dumb young kid picking up big heavy stuff. It's not near as bad as Andrew's story about his back, but
Yeah.
that's what we get sometimes for not being smart.
Yeah.
Advice.
Yeah. This is the time.
Smart. Listen to those old guys that are telling you we're breaking down early because use the hoist when you can. Don't just grab a hold of it and pick it up. That's just because you can doesn't mean you should. Safety is the most important thing. Make sure those glasses are on. I'll yell at you for that. I know some people that have eyeballs because they had safety glasses on just by chance.
Yeah.
And I've been through the metal stuck in my eye process multiple times. And I was wearing safety glasses and a mask.
Yeah.
I wear a face mask when I work because I don't like stuff hitting me in the face.
Yeah, me too. A lot of times grinding, I'll still have the shield on just cause.
I wasn't grinding when I got the bronze dust in my face. It was hot days. I had the fans going in the studio, and I picked up something that had a bunch of bronze dust on it.
Oh,
Like a big pile of bronze dust, and when the fan hit it, it shot it right into the corner of the eye.
Oh my gosh.
So, I thought I got it all out, and I eventually ended up going to the eye doctor, and he said, really old dude. He was kind of fun. He was trying to be as calm as possible about it, but he was so freaked out about how bad my eye was with the infection. Eventually, he finally came out and said, if you don't do exactly what I tell you, you won't have an eye by the end of this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's pretty crazy. So I had this crazy goop that I had to put into my eye every night. It was basically as thick as Vaseline. And I couldn't see out of my eye at all. But I had to put it in, and it had to be in for 12 hours. So there was a time when I would get ready to go to bed the next day, like my right eye, I couldn't see anything out of. So wear your safety gear, please. Make sure you keep your fingerprints.
Yeah, because it's also happens sometimes at the least expected moment. You didn't expect when you picked up that piece that you were going to get a bronze shower in your face. You don't know. You never know when it's going to. I know. Sometimes I was sewing on the sewing machine earlier today, and I was like, I feel like I need safety glasses. I know people sew all the time with sewing machines, and why would they wear safety glasses? But I don't know. For me, for some reason, when there's a machine going and I'm not wearing safety glasses, I'm very uncomfortable. So I guess it's not a bad thing. It's just funny.
Those safety glasses are a good thing. I think, but yeah. Do you advise the kids? Not kids, sorry. I just say kids to everybody. I think I call my family kids too. But one, follow what you want to do. Have faith in yourself, because everything you're going to learn, listening to people, you're going to be able to do it. Just stay with it. And Laura's a prime example of it. Also, she fought through hell, and she's doing what she wants, and she loves it. As long as you can keep that smile on your face, it's worth doing. If you're not smiling anymore, time to move on.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing to take away just at the end, just the hope and the seriousness, the seriousness and the safety advice. But then also, I do think that I just was talking to somebody about the timing. It's it doesn't happen when you want it to happen, but whatever you are waiting for to happen will happen when it needs to happen, but you're not in control of that. So as long as you're right. If you're still smiling, then you still do it and follow your heart. Yeah.
Another thing, if anybody out there has questions, you can get a hold of me. I was so fortunate, like I said earlier in this, I had, guys running foundries all over the country that I would call because I had a question about a patina, or I had a question about why is this not welding properly? Why is this not working? And these old guys that didn't owe me anything, or they didn't even know me. We'd never seen each other face to face. It was just phone call, shipping stuff. But they were more than willing to give me any advice or help they wanted. So that's what got me into teaching. Uh, was that same thing, and me getting all this knowledge from these people and so many different avenues that I'm happy to share anything, anytime. I'm the most open book person you'll ever meet. Want to know what I did when I was in college in Columbia and why I ended up really coming home? Yeah, I'll tell you. No, I won't.
Well, also, I mean, like true to form, you gave me all of that Linicure. Like, I don't know how hundreds of dollars. I don't know how much all that costs. And you were like, yeah, kid, just come pick it up. You were like, I don't know if it's still good because it's been in the shop, which isn't like air. What did you is
there is no climate control in that studio.
That's what I was gonna say. You said something about like there's no climate control, so it's been hot, it's been cold, it's probably frozen. Like I don't know. And then I got it from you when I got my sand mixer when we were still living at the rental house in St. Louis, and I thought I was gonna make sand molds. Then I never did. But what?
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I just this past March. That was like all I wanted for my birthday was to actually mix sand in our garage. And so what?
I just want to smell it again.
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to, like, maybe if they're pouring in Peoria, you guys come out, we'll like barbecue and then mix some sand,
Plan.
We
can make that happen.
We can make an event of it. We've got a guest room, Yeah. It's an open invitation. So we'll just have to see how the summer goes because you're busy, we'll work something out. Well, let's go over to the after show and we'll just keep it going for another 15 to 20 minutes.
Help Laura out with the Patreon and make this happen.
And they already are. I mean, I've gotten a lot of support with, it's just been amazing. People reaching out and wanting to contribute and also wanting to like offer support in other ways and just thanking me for what I'm doing. And it means a lot that what I'm doing and this like part of my professional practice is being so well received. And so it's an honor and also so much fun because I get to talk to my friends. I mean, so it's like, Marty and I probably live 40 minutes away from each other and I haven't seen you since before the pandemic, probably.
Right when you came by and picked up the lineup here.
Probably.
The last time I saw you. And the time before that, I think it was my birthday.
Yeah. What up? Yeah. But anyways, let's go over to the after show. Marty, thanks for being on the show. And maybe we'll see you over at the after show. All right. Thanks. And we love you. Goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am so inspired by how Marty has navigated all of the curveballs that life has thrown at him. Many of his accomplishments are outstanding, but it is quite noteworthy that as an adjunct professor, he was able to generate enough excitement and support for iron casting at Lindenwood University that the students he worked with almost 10 years ago are still willing to show up and help out when he is pouring iron. Marty, thank you for your energy and enthusiasm, but also thank you for your faith in me. You've always gone out of your way to make me feel like I'm capable of doing anything that I put my mind to. And you say it so often that you actually get me to believe it. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm sure that your perseverance will be inspirational to others when they too are faced with all the tough stuff that life constantly throws our way. If you want to get in touch with Marty, you can email him at mlinson@ofallon.mo.us. And to view his portfolio of artwork, check out his website, which is linsonstudio.com. Thanks as always to our top supporter, Sloss Metal Arts, as well as our other supporters on Patreon. I really appreciate all of your contributions, which help me afford the online hosting of the PodCAST Iron audio files. I hope you will enjoy this week's after show, where Marty and I reminisce about working together as preparators at Lohmeyer Sculpture Park. If you would like access to the after show from each episode, go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/podcastiron. There, you can choose a contribution level that fits within your budget. And Patreon supporters at any level get access to the after show from each episode. This is just an extra 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more, with the show's guest, where we talk a little more candidly and share at least one more story. So for as low as $1 a month, you can support the show and get this extra content. But if you don't have it in your budget to support the PodCAST Iron on Patreon, it's okay. Instead, if you could share this podcast with someone that you think would be interested in listening or watching, I'll appreciate that just as much. Anything and everything helps. And for that, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you happen to be watching the show on YouTube, please subscribe to the PodCAST Iron channel. This way you can set up notifications for when each episode goes live, but also I'm working towards 100 subscribers because reaching that milestone will allow me to change the channel URL from a random arrangement of numbers and letters that I've been assigned to a more personal URL. I would love to have it be youtube.com/podcastiron, but until I reach that 100 subscriber milestone, a girl can only dream. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at thepodcastiron@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and watching. I'm sending you all my love always, and I can't wait to share the next episode with you. I'll talk to you soon, and have a great day.